There are times when you're using the if function when you want to provide more than just two answers, maybe three, maybe four. In this worksheet, in column I, is a formula. The test to see if a job rating is 4 or 5. And when that's true, the answer is 2,000. Otherwise, blank, empty. This company has changed its mind and now wants to give smaller bonuses to those who have a job rating of 3. Now, when you're looking at a function, you can't really observe what's happening as it's actually being used, but the logic actually happens left to right. When this condition is true, in other words, when the J2 entry is 4 or 5, the answer is 2,000, and you could say the logic stops, the function is over. But when this condition fails, the logic goes after the 2,000, and you could say it's waiting right there. And so what we're about to do now is to say, let's check and see if the job rating is 3. And so we're putting in a second if, called a nested if. If this job rating equals 3, comma. When that's true, we're going to provide an answer of $750, comma. And when it's not true, and that means the job rating would be 1 or 2, the answer is blank. So this is an if inside of an if, and we do have to put in the final parentheses. The total number of left and right parentheses must always match, and in these cases, they must be typed. So in English, we're saying the following. If your job rating is 4 or 5, you get $2,000. If it's not, we'll check to see if it's equal to a 3. If it is, you get $750, but if it's not, nothing. So as I press Control-Enter here, and then double-click to recopy, we'll see a slightly different result. For example, in row 5, we have an answer of 750. The function, a use of the nested if, now provides 3 possible answers. We could take this a step further. You might question the wisdom as to why they would be giving a bonus to those with a job rating of 2, but they still might want to do that. And so here too, extending this logic even further, we would, after the 750 and the comma, put in another if to see if the job rating, and this time since I can't click on it, the editing is extending into cell J2, I'll simply type the J2. If J2 equals 2, comma, and this company has decided to provide them with a token bonus of $100. If that's not true, in other words, if it's not a 2, comma, the answer is blank. So now we have an if inside of an if inside of an if, and we need one more closing parentheses. This, by the way, is referred to as 2 nested ifs. And in older versions of Excel, 2003 and prior, the maximum number of nested ifs was 7. And believe it or not, as of Excel 2000, you can have up to 64 nested ifs. And I think you can see how unwieldy this is becoming. Now, if you're familiar with the data, this maybe isn't that big of a stretch, but the more ifs you add, the more opportunity you have for making a typing mistake, misplaced comma, you forgot a parentheses here or there, you typed minus instead of equal, that sort of thing. And I would strongly suggest if you're using functions like this, if they somehow have become necessary, use a large zoom factor. Make this large and clear on your screen. So as I press Control-Enter to complete this, and then we've copied all these, we see different answers now. And of course, here's what happens when it's a 2. There's the logic. And I'm just displaying the function there. You can see it too. So in all these examples here, we're providing additional answers by way of a nested if. Remember, the maximum is now 64. And as they say sometimes, don't even think about it. You're not going to see too many more than 3 or 4. But here and there, with certain kinds of more complex situations, at least you have the possibility of using these extended ifs. If we wanted to display this ultimately, and we could just drag it out to here and then see the entire function played out in the cell here with the answer to the right a bit more clearly. Ultimately, if this is all we wanted to do with the particular function, of course, we just make column I by double-clicking its rightmost edge just wide enough to display the answer. So we've seen an example here of using a nested if, and in the final example, we've shown 2 nested ifs.